So
Okay.
we'll go ahead and get started. With that being done, I'm going to call the attendance just so that we make sure that we have everybody. Cleo Duckworth, I'm here. Susan Matson,
Here.
Lorinda Hale, William Johnson,
Here.
Ruby Baker,
Here.
David Gleason,
Here.
Rick Cowan.
Here.
Carlene is not joining us. And Mr. Trevino. Okay, hopefully he's going to be able to join us shortly. Right now, he's not with us, though. That's the official roll call. Also have the statement that I need to read about the virtual meeting. The Emergency Communication Districts of Nashville and Davidson County has determined that meeting electronically is necessary to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans and the citizens of Nashville and Davidson County in light of the coronavirus, and that pursuant to executive orders numbers 16, 34, 51, 60, 65, and 71 issued by Governor Lee for the state of Tennessee, the Board of Directors of the Emergency Communication District of Nashville and Davidson County is conducting its meeting electronically, having given clear notice of the meeting agenda and how the public can access the meeting electronically at a time and location reasonably accessible to all members of the public. And that will be recorded in our minutes. With that being done, consideration of the minutes that were sent out. If there's not any additions or correction, a motion to approve would be in order.
I so move.
Do I have a second?
Second, William.
Okay.
So I have a motion by Lorinda and a second by William. Is there discussion? I'm going to do the roll call again for the vote. Susan?
Aye.
Lorinda?
Aye.
William?
Aye.
Ruby?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Rick?
Aye.
Mr. Trevino? Still not with us. Thank you. We'll move into the review of the financial statements. Mark?
Okay, Larry's going to try to get it up on the screen for us here. Oh, here we go. Hopefully we can do a little better job than we did last time. Okay, looking at the first page of the financial statement here on the balance sheet, you can see that at the end of January, we had cash on hand of, oh, here's Elliot. Just give me just a second. He's calling here. Elliot?
Larry, are you able to do a full screen?
No, make it a little bigger if you can. I can't do it on mine.
Okay, that's not your password. Your password is Metro. Yeah, but you shouldn't have to even enter a password when you're calling in as an attendee. Did you enter in the access code, the 146?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, you called the 415-655 number, correct? Okay, and then you entered your passcode followed by the pound sign. No, the
Hey, Susan,
Yes.
I had the little arrows on the left side let me zoom in and made mine wider.
Oh, okay. The little plus. Okay,
Yeah.
that's great. Now I can read it. Thank you.
You got it?
Yeah, that's great. I didn't print them all off.
By the time we get this all figured out, we'll be able to meet in person again.
Right, okay.
I sure hope so. I didn't get that needle in my arm for nothing. I'm hoping that's exactly why I did that. So we can.
Don't see, I'm waiting for that.
Yeah, you and me both. I mean, I was supposed to get mine today, but weather did us in.
Well, I have an appointment tomorrow out of county, and I'm waiting to hear.
Great, great.
Yeah, it looks like I'm at the bottom of the list, so it'll be a minute before. So I'll let you guys go ahead and do it so I can come out and walk around.
You're the youngster.
Yeah.
Well, I only get it because of my husband, so, but I'll take it.
Larry's trying to get to the second page here. Do you see a little plus or minus over on the left-hand side, Larry? I think.
That's zooming.
We can't hear you, Larry.
Eliud Trevino?
Oh, okay, Elliot's here.
Yes.
Up at the top, there's some arrow buttons too that has a down, and it says, mine says 1 of 7.
Larry, we can't hear you.
He's muted.
There we go. He's on the
There we
second
go.
page now.
Okay.
All right, we're going to go over the income and expenses for the month here. Not anything that's out of the ordinary. Let's see, the first 3 items there, those are normal monthly expenses that we have every month. Y'all have seen those before. That fourth one down, I had incorporated. That was for an upgrade, a hardware upgrade to the 911 department storage management system. That was the upgrade, and then the professional service. Well, no, that was just the hardware upgrade. A little over $10,000 there, and we booked that under capital. The fifth item down in Trotto, that was an upgrade to the phone system. I have a note here that was a modification to the system for failover, and that was the hardware and the professional services that it took to put that in place. That was $8,171. That was also booked under capital. And then let's see, you got myself, Larry. Those are normal expenses every month for the administration services. TDS Telecom, that's a normal one, at $145. We've got our lobbyist there, Will Denami. That was his services for the month January. Let's see, SunTrust Bank. That was our credit card. We have to pay $150 every year to the Tennessee Ethics Commission, an annual fee. So even though we paid it in November when we hired Will Denami, we had to pay it again in January for the current year. So that was $150 that I put on the credit card. Let's see, the AT&T, that's a normal expense every month of $64,000. We have 2 expenses there for Metro government. That was for some in-service training. The first one, $2,931. That was for some expenses that weren't captured back in October. So we went back and made that correction. The $11,075 one, that was for in-service training for December. Let's see, the last 2, ProVantage. So that was for some small equipment items. I think it was a sound bar and some cables, or what my notes say here. That went to ProVantage, $232. And then the last expense, the $27,719, that was DVL Siegenthaler for their monthly expenses for the month of January. And then we had a couple income items for the month, interest on our checking account of not quite $9, and then a check we got from Metro's eBid department for not quite $50. And let's see, looking down, we had interest on our LGIP, the local government investment pool, of $1,874. So between income and expenses, we finished the month with $145,560 net loss. Let's jump over, Larry, to the page that shows income and expenses for the whole year. Yeah, there you go. You've got it up there. here we go. It's a summarized page here showing that during the month of January, we had $1,133 in income. Normal operating expenses, or if you can kind of pan down, yeah. Normal operating expenses was 128, almost 129,000. Now you notice that's a little bit lower than what we normally have for each month. That's because we didn't reimburse the Department of Emergency Communications for their December expenses. Normally we would have reimbursed them for those expenses during the month of January. Metro was very slow in closing their books. I think a lot of that had to do with all the things going on with getting this COVID payout and everything. But what's going to happen is during the month of February, we're going to have expenses for both the December period and the January period. So anyways, that's why the operating expenses look low there. And then if we jump to the next page, you'll see those two expenses that we booked under capital. That was the Entrado upgrade and then the one for the storage management system. And there again, it shows that we have a net loss of 145,000 for the month. And jumping over the last two pages where we show budget versus actual, looking through here, there's nothing that I'm aware of right now that's going to put us over budget in any of these categories. I feel pretty comfortable that we're going to finish the year within budget, unless something out of the ordinary happens here in the next few months. So, anyways, any questions about any of this? If not, I guess we just need to accept the financial statement as it's presented.
I move that we accept it as presented.
And I'll second.
Sorry, I had to get unmuted. Okay, I have a motion by Susan and a second by Ruby to accept the financial report as given. Do we have discussion? Hearing none, I'll do the roll call, starting with Susan.
Aye.
Lorinda. On to Ruby.
Aye.
William Johnson.
I said aye.
Okay, back up. Lorinda.
Aye.
Thank you. William Johnson.
Aye.
David Gleason.
Aye. Sorry.
Rick Cowan
Aye.
and Elliot Trevino.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to the next item, we have training requests. Do we have any training requests?
I wasn't, Bruce didn't notify me of any. I didn't know if Steve might have brought some to the meeting or not.
No, sir.
Okay.
Okay, hearing nothing under training request, we'll move on to public awareness. Philip.
Hi, everybody.
Hey,
Hi.
Phil.
Good to see and hear everybody's voices. I will tee up Stephanie here. Thank you, Larry, for having these reports shared on your screen. We'll go over the advertising report and then we'll cover Rex. And then after that, I have an update on an earned media project that we're going to be working on in the next few weeks. So with that, I know Stephanie has a good report on our new creative advertising that is out now on billboards and on the airwaves, and some good results attached with those so far.
Hey, everybody.
Hey.
So January was our first month running the new campaign creative, and our click-through rate on the digital campaigns is more than triple the national average. This is outperforming our last campaign by quite a bit. We've driven over 569 new visitors to the website in January, with some pretty high traffic days there at that first week of launching this new creative. So it's performing very well. We'll keep an eye on it, but all things are looking really, really good for the new campaign. And then we are planning to shoot the video on Monday, weather permitting. So hopefully you guys will be able to see that here in the next couple of weeks too, with the hope of getting it out and running middle of March.
I would just also add that the Public Awareness Committee should have gotten an email from Stephanie. Was that earlier today?
Yeah, this morning. Just some details on the shoot itself. We're having to change logistics up a little bit with some of the scenarios that you originally approved. So yeah, if you all can just take a look at that and get back to me, that would be great ahead of the Monday, obviously.
Yep. That's great. It's exciting to have our new campaign rolling and the good results attached to it. And then, Larry, we can move on to Rex now. So we have officially launched the animated Rex program now with the completed video, and had a good January and half of February, considering in classroom school started back up, and of course this week was especially unusual with the weather, but nonetheless, so far 8 schools have taken us up on our offer to implement the program in their calendar and curriculum, and so we've distributed coloring books to those schools so far, including with those are 55 Spanish coloring books, and that represents almost 900 students in Davidson County who will be participating in the virtual Rex program in the next couple of weeks. This is just the first round. We are continuing to follow up with all metro schools and any school within Davidson County. So we anticipate more engagement in the weeks ahead. So it's certainly off to a great start. We'll be following up with those who have agreed to participate, just to check to see how it went, see if there were any feedback that would be useful for us moving forward. But otherwise, things are going well so far with Rex, the animated Rex. So looking forward to the day when we can get Rex back in the classrooms, back in the schools. So that's Rex. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is that March 11th is National 311 Day on 3/11, not coincidentally. And so we thought that was a great opportunity for us to draw attention to our new advertising campaign that shines a light on the differences between when it's appropriate to call 911 or 8600 as opposed to 311. And so, and just generally how important it is for people to know, regardless of our advertising campaign, that there's a difference between the two numbers. And so Director Martini and our team and Hub Nashville, Aaron Williams from Hub Nashville will be meeting on Monday to discuss a media relations component that sort of announces our campaign, references the fact that you may have seen billboards or heard radio spots alluding to this, and here's why it's important. So we think it's an opportunity to get some local media coverage, probably another opportunity to do an op-ed co-authored by Director Martini and Aaron Williams, just to re-emphasize that message and to add another component to our awareness campaign. So we'll keep you posted on how that goes, and I guess by next board meeting we'll have some results from that.
I have a question. I've received some emails from United Way talking about a 211 number. And it looks like it says Nashville participates in that, where you can call. I don't know if it's more social services or something. It seems like it's getting a bit confusing out there, as you're already trying to address. So I don't know if that needs to go in there too. I don't know what our participation is in that, or what Metro's is.
I'm not aware. That's something we can certainly talk about when we meet with 311. That's a good point, Susan. Thank you for bringing that up. There are certainly a lot of 1-1 numbers that are being presented to people, and you're right, it can be confusing. So that's very
But they're
good.
pushing 511 for road conditions a lot too.
Yeah, Phil, my understanding 211 is a national number used by United Way and American Red Cross for civil services. It goes to their call centers and is outside of metro government or anything we might be doing.
Okay. Well, it said something in the email I got about making sure your organization is giving us information about you, that they have the right information to give out to people.
Yep, it's a United Way initiative. It was held in Hamilton County also when I was down there in Chattanooga. The American Red Cross United Way bunch in Hamilton County was very active, and we had to coordinate with them because they existed, and we were the other 1-1 number right in the area. We were trying to make sure we were all on the same page. So probably some coordination there, finding the right person, just make sure we're all on the same page.
And I'm sure there's a way for us to work that into some of the messaging around this earned media program that we're going to be talking about. So that's a good input, Susan. Thank you for that.
Very good. Thank you. Nothing else. We'll move on. The next thing on the agenda is the street name change. We're renaming Kearney Street to Bianca Page Way. Mark, I assume everything's good on that?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Yes, the 911 department approves this change. They don't have a problem with it.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, who did the motion, Ruby?
Yes.
And who seconded?
David.
David, thank you. So I have a motion by Ruby and a second by David. Do we have discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to do the roll call for the vote. Susan?
I guess.
Lorinda?
Aye.
Ruby?
Aye.
William?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Rick?
Aye.
Elliot?
Aye.
So what was that? 7 ayes and I guess?
I never heard of her.
Thank you. We'll show that as an aye, Susan. Moving on, the next item up for the agenda is the director's report. Stephen?
Thank you very much. I won't be nearly as long-winded as I was last month. I appreciate y'all the opportunity to address you at every opportunity, and I'm looking forward to seeing the group in person as these vaccines continue to roll. For the purposes of this conversation, I really wanted to just bring some attention to page 3. Larry, kind of the top of page 3. Speaks to standards of compliance, and this is really kind of highlights exactly what Philip McGowan there was just sharing in this initiative with 311. You'll see our call answer time compliant with NFPA standards and NENA standards for 90% answered and within 15 seconds of ring time, and 95% answered within 20 seconds. Both of those are the highest that they've been in 2 years. Which is amazing, right? The compliance rate. We are at 93.29% answered in 15 seconds, which is above the 90% requirement. And we missed the 95% requirement by 0.34 percentage points. And don't think that we're not talking about that internally about how we can get over 95. I want both of those green, and I want to stay there for the rest of our lives. The only way we were able to accomplish that is by moving so many of these other calls, the wrong number calls, or the calls that were, tip line type calls or things like that we're still getting the information on, but getting those over to 311 has been a huge help for us to get our folks focused on what it is that we're supposed to be doing, which is answering 911 calls in a timely and efficient manner. And I think we're seeing that here, and I'm continuing to track some of those through February, and we're only getting stronger. Actually, I just sent an email out to our folks today. Through the winter storm, we're firmly at a 90 above the percentage rate for answer standards for 15 seconds, and just slightly below for 20 seconds, and that's in the middle of a winter storm. That honestly, there's provisions allowing us to be to not consider this at all, because there are times this is tough. There's no way you're going to make that. Well, we're making them. We're hitting those standards even in the storm, which is fantastic. It means our folks are freed up to do what they're supposed to be doing. So I appreciate y'all's moving and voting for and in favor of this 311 effort, because it really does make a huge difference for our folks to be able to focus on what it is they're supposed to be doing, which is answering 911 calls quickly.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm sure you probably do, but just for my ears, I just want to make sure, did you share this stat with the 311 with Aaron, the director, and to show how partnership, how teams work together and the impact?
Yes, ma'am. We're so successful in this conversation that before this call this afternoon, we had a phone call with some leadership over at the police department to see about how they could also leverage Hub Nashville and those solutions to reporting a lost license plate or some of those things that will allow them to send officers to the calls that really need them, and not tie up officers on calls that may not need to drive across the county for or whatnot. And they're interested. They're hesitant, but they're interested in learning and exploring that same thing. But I think this partnership is going to grow even further than 911 to police response in other places.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And this is David, Director, while we're talking. So on these percentages you mentioned during the winter storm, what about the Christmas Day bombing? Were those stats included in this average to answer?
This only shows our response in January. So I can let me go back and look at the previous month report, and I can pull that for you too. We've been measuring these. That would be December's. Our call answer times for December, or let me see, I'm pulling that up.
Are you able to give the dates too? I mean, like from when to when, December 1st to 20th? Do you have that too while you're looking?
Are you talking about specifically the days?
Yeah, well, how are you measuring that? Is December 1st through December 31st? Do you have a period rather than just the month?
Yeah, the month would be for the month.
Full month.
The 1st through the 31st. However, I could run that very specific to the day.
No, it doesn't matter the day. When you say the month, because sometimes months in fiscal year shut off at the middle or whatever. So you said January, answering David's question. This is January 1st to January 31st?
Correct. That shows the month of January, right? December.
The one you gave us in January says 15 seconds was 86.16 and 20 seconds was 88.58.
Yep, that's what I'm saying. We were 86% and 88% compliant in December. Little bit of a challenge on that one to really get that number correct, because we did have 3 days in that mix, David, of a system that was not functioning as expected.
Right.
So I would want to go back and run those. This is part of exactly what I was talking about. The NFPA standard 1221.7, actually 4.1.3 or 4.2.3 gives us the opportunity to exempt situations where the infrastructure was so significantly impacted that it altered our daily routine. So we could and would, if somebody were to ask us, if NFPA were to call and say, hey, how did you do in the month of December, we would exempt Christmas Day and the day after and the 27th from those stats.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
No problem. Other than that, I don't really have a whole lot out of this report that I feel like is worth calling attention to. There's some things on the horizon that we're working toward next month, but I'm glad to take any questions if folks have questions about how we performed over the last month.
Well, I'm sure it's here, but I was just, when you get there, I wanted to know about the staffing. Has anything changed?
Yeah, our staffing is, we are 5 positions short. 2 of those are on purpose. We have left 2 vacant because we're moving 2 people over into our quality assurance section. We're going to create a quality assurance manager role filled by Bruce Anchegren, and then a quality assurance supervisor role, as we're really staffing up the number of people that we have conducting quality assurance reviews. We're going to use communications training officers on a special assignment basis every 4 months or so to about 5 at a time to go over there and complete quality assurance reviews, which should get the number of calls that we're actively listening to, reviewing, and getting that feedback to our folks faster, which is be a great thing that you're having calls reviewed and getting that feedback in a timely manner to do something with it. So we've left those 2 positions vacant on purpose so that we can backfill Bruce's position with, actually, there's a little bit of succession planning going on there as well. We recognize in the next 5 years or so, we have 1 detail manager and 1 Angie and 1 Bruce that are all eligible for retirement. We don't want to look up 5 years from now and not have a plan. So we're moving some of our kind of middle management folks into other leadership positions so they can get exposure in the various aspects of the 911 center so that they're not walking into that blind. So we'll move those folks, Patrice Coleman from our evening shift detail manager will move into that training manager role in April. And then we're looking to fill the training supervisor position as well, that Nell Hayes will move over to quality assurance. Then there are 3 other vacancies that we didn't necessarily plan for. We had to let 2 folks go for honestly just not coming to work. Bless their hearts, showing up to work was a challenge. So they stopped showing up. So we severed our relationship. And then we had one that resigned, I think. I'm fuzzy on the one that just resigned.
Very good. Well, then, good, very good. And then, by the way, I saw you on a news report there.
Yeah.
Was it just a couple weeks ago? You spoke well, and thank you so much for keeping it clean, I'll say. Thank you.
You're very welcome. It is always my goal to not be in the first 10 minutes of the news cycle that were that boring. And it's always my goal to not be what they're plugging in the commercials. So successfully, we avoided both of those things.
Yes, you did good. Thank you for keeping it clean. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Appreciate it. We're actually pretty excited about our staffing levels. I'm glad you brought that up. I was looking at this time last year, we had 37 vacancies compared to 5 currently. So to sit at 2.6% vacancies, that's fantastic. And we've already got a nice long list of people waiting to get and join us probably July or August in our next academy. And that's my hope going forward is two classes of 6 or 7. Total per year, maybe another, that's half of what we've done. We've hired 28 people consistently for the last 15 years. So if we can make that hire 14 people going forward, that would be great. A 50% reduction in our turnover. And I'm not sure we can get lower than that with folks that just naturally retire or whatnot, but I don't want to see more than about 12 or 14 any given year moving forward. We can talk legislation here, but I don't know if that's my director's update or is it's a conversation with you, Russ, and Cleo, kind of where legislation sits. There's nothing else but adjournment at this point, so I believe it's as good a place as any to talk about what's out there and what's on the horizon.
If you want to mention your last conversations with Will, Steve, that'd be fun.
Okay, that's great. That's what I've got kind of on my list here. Is so there's been a lot. I tell you, it's a big number that the board pays Will, and I got to say I don't think he sleeps, and I have no idea how he's doing this in the moments that are happening now, where the legislature is pretty much legislators only, and everything else is remote. Nobody else is allowed to be in the building because of COVID. So it's amazing to me that we have as comprehensive information about the bills and the status of the bills and all the work that is going behind those bills that are outside of the Capitol itself. So there's about 4 bills that are of interest. And I didn't share these, but Mark, I can, or I can share my screen either way. I don't have the bill numbers, of course.
Steve, is it that report that was sent out by Tina that you're going to refer to?
Yeah, if you've got.
I shared that with board members.
Okay, that's great. Yep, then there's it's Will's commentary on some of the stuff that was sent. Let me see. want to get very specific about the bill numbers that we're talking about. And I didn't include that.
Yeah, Mark, if you have that, can you just give the bill numbers? You don't have to give the details. It's on my email, the email you sent about the Tina.
Yeah, I don't have those bill numbers.
Okay,
I'll
find it.
I think that's what Steve's getting now.
Yeah, neither do I. Shame on me, right? I'm sitting here thinking the same thing. I should have those bill numbers right off and handy.
Okay, I'll find it. Thanks.
No problem. Let me pull that Tina legislative. We'll reference them.
I've made you the presenter, Steve, and if you want to.
Perfect. All right, there we go.
Show anything.
I've got them.
Oh, I see it. Okay. I see them. It's a lot of them. Yeah.
No problem. Here we go. We're going to work off of the list that was shared by Tina. There we go. All right. Y'all see that okay?
No. There it is. Yeah, that's it.
All right. Let me shrink this down and make it bigger a little bit. There we go. All right. So in the midst of this, I'm going to pull. There we go. All right, I'll pull Will's comments to the side. Okay, so we've got the first bill is this would require the ECD to develop a comprehensive statewide plan to develop a text to 911 service. I honestly don't see this one getting any traction, only because about 50 to 60% of 911 centers across the state already have a plan to deploy text to 911, or they already have. So I'm not sure this solves anything, and especially by the date that we have in there, it's a 2023 activation date. We honestly, inside of Davidson County, are, don't tell your friends, but we're functional with text to 911. We just aren't publicizing it right now. And I'm not sure, as we move forward, Philip, that's a conversation, I guess, to have. I'm not sure that we really ever will, or that we should publicize to the community that you can text 911. What we found is, even since the 1st of February, we're receiving about a text a day from the public, and nobody told them they could text 911. I think there's a public expectation out there that says you can, so they try, and we've sent help. We've dispatched help on these calls. I think we probably would target an effort to speak to the speech and hearing impaired communities and let them know that they can, but I'm not sure that we should, put on a billboard or go to the public and say, hey, you can, because we don't necessarily want them to. We want them to if they have to, but we don't necessarily want them to go to this as a first resort.
Is there not some way we could get that information out to, for instance, the battered women shelters or the battered folks shelters, however you want to call it, as a way that seems to be at least from what I've seen, the advent that would most often use it as a way to contact 911.
Yep, sure. There's a question I'd want to have there that if sometimes in those battered women shelters they get a burner phone of some sort, kind of a cheap little burner phone. In order to text 911, that phone has to have an active Wi-Fi service plan, and I want to make sure that whatever they're handed by the shelter has the ability to text to 911. And but Lorenda, you're exactly right. That's what I'd want to talk to Philip about, is really targeting that message to the right audience and not just broadly to the entire county saying, hey, everybody do it, because we don't want them to.
Well, to keep from getting off subject, didn't we just have an incident where someone did text 911 and our dispatchers were able to help them, and it was like an emergency crisis? Didn't that just happen?
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying is through the first 10 days of February, we have had a text like that every day.
Yeah.
We've had one call which is shocking to me that I thought that we on our pattern has been, since we started this, maybe 6 to 10 a month and not one a day. So when we went live with this, I thought it'd be a whole lot of us testing and calling each other and not much from the public, but that's not been the case. So we're ready and we're sending help and we're responding to those. We just haven't publicized it. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, I forgot where I saw it, but I remember reading about that. And had she not, even if it was not advertised, she needed a way to reach 911, and she did. So
absolutely.
I saw that and I saw how we responded to her and
Yep.
got the help that she needed. So even if we don't advertise it, she just knew she needed some help. And that that case really helped her. So I think it's going to speak for itself before we even start trying to advertise it.
I think you're absolutely right. And that kind of speaks back to this bill is there's a bill that says, you know, we have to have a plan to put this in place. And I think that this bill is just behind the reality. I think the reality is already there. The centers are already deploying text to 911. Most of them, if not all of them, will be up with this service long before January 1st of 2023. So I'm not sure that this is, it's probably an easy bill to get passed because there's nobody up there who's going to say we're not going to do it, but it doesn't really create anything. But they're certainly not telling us to do it, and we're not the first of the party for sure.
This is Dave.
Go ahead, Dave. I'm sorry.
Yeah, thanks. No, just a comment to follow up on Ruby's comments and then a question. So I agree with Ruby. I think since we're not the the first on the cutting edge, bleeding edge of text to 911 across the country, that as people travel in and out of our state and our city, if they have it already, which more and more centers across the country are doing text to 911, having the ability there, if they need it and use it, it works. I don't think advertising it makes much sense. Sorry, Philip. But the question is, who are we using as a text control center? Is that the Intrado solution or?
I don't. Tim, you can answer, but I don't think we're using a text control center. I think it's just who the text control center is, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know as far as reporting, it goes to ECAS through the text control center. I mean, so it is going through there.
So is it over the state provided, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm not sure who that is, but that's okay. I mean, there are a couple of three out there that very reliable. So, all right. Thank you. Good to hear. Good report.
Thank you. That's exciting. So I'm not sure that one gets any legs. The next one is a concern. It's House Bill 362, Senate Bill 616, through Representative Lowe Russell, and it's specifically it is that targeted bill that says direct dispatch. This one came up last year. It seems like it was targeted to Wilson County to avoid the situation where you're calling 911 and you're only getting somebody who's asking you the location of your emergency, and then the type of your emergency, and then whether you say fire, police, EMS, they transfer you to another center that's actually going to do the rest of the call taking and the dispatching of the service. The concern here is kind of the unintended consequences. If we move to a direct dispatch method only, requiring that you can't transfer away any phone call. It must be dispatched without being transferred. We have a lot of calls on the borders. We have a lot of calls that come to us from cell phone towers that are on the edge that should have wound up in Smyrna or Laverne or whatnot. And if the idea that, Brentwood for that matter, if the idea is because we answered it, we should be able to dispatch their help directly, that's just not feasible inside of our space. We'd have to create CAD to CAD interfaces or something with every agency that touches our borders. And then I don't necessarily, well, I'll tell you what, I don't want Smyrna, Laverne or Brentwood dispatching Metro officers or Metro firefighters to calls from their CAD system because they're the ones that happen to catch the call first.
So Director, this is David again. So, I was assuming the description is just a summary of the entire bill. I can't imagine any bill being two paragraphs.
Correct.
So does it not in the full bill, and Russell, you may be better to address it, but does it not address that situation where if it's outside of our jurisdictional boundaries, then transfer is permissible to the correct jurisdiction that can direct dispatch for that?
It doesn't currently. It identifies it as misrouted calls, but we don't have a definition on misrouted calls.
So how do we?
Calls to me is a wrong ESN.
Right. So who do we go to then, Russell, to try to get an amendment stating that to alleviate director's concerns about that. And no, any district's concerns. I mean, it goes both ways.
How are you?
I would presume one, I know that Tina, again, we had a meeting and don't know if you were attending that legislative committee.
I didn't. No, I wasn't able to.
That opposed it as written and really at this point, because it's not being fully, I guess, for lack of a better term, sort of vetted what's the intended use and all the little nuances that we're discussing can be put in it. It may come to be supported in part or not supported in part, and I don't know, Steve, if this is a bill that could be refined, or if you think it could be refined to be something that would be good for the 911 communities. But
well, it says passed on second consideration. I mean, what's the next step?
The House says it's withdrawn.
Yeah.
On this thing, I'm looking it up to see if it's still there.
Okay.
Isn't that why we have a lobbyist that costs a lot of money?
That's true. Yeah, it's just all these were just they've just been passed basically as presented. Mark or David, and now they're just getting assigned to committee. They haven't gone to committee yet, and then none of the committees met this week due to weather.
Okay, so
Plus, I'll be careful. They're all very, very broadly captioned. It means
sure.
Change anything in there.
So director, what and with working with our consultant, Mr. Bavami, what have you passed on to him about? I mean, I'm assuming you've passed your concerns to him, because we'll fully support you on that.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's got the same concerns. It says it's too vague, and it looks like it's taking control out of the local districts, which is where Will feels, and obviously I do too. Control on how 911 is handled, how 911 calls are dispatched, needs to stay at the district level. What works for one county may not work for another county, and will be far from us to come in here and say that because Metro Nashville dispatches police, fire, and EMS all from one center, that's what has to work for the city of Brentwood or some county in Western Tennessee. So that's kind of the thing here is let's not get
you gotta have flexibility.
Right. This just draws that line too sharply. The next, to get really in the weeds on this, what do I do if I get a phone call of a domestic on the interstate on I-40 heading toward Mount Juliet, but it's in Davidson County now? Well, they're in my jurisdiction, but I know they're not going to be in 3 miles, right?
Right,
so I handle this call. And we don't need to have legislation written so tightly that we can't operate. And I think that's what this is.
So I guess just being ignorant of legislative process and opposing or supporting. I know we've got, again, Mr. Donami that's voicing on our behalf. At what point would we as a board need to formally have a resolution stating our opposition or support sent to the appropriate committees or legislative folks?
So it's my understanding, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding the value that we're getting out of Will is the conversations he's going to have in the offices of these various committee members or the bill sponsor themselves before the bill ever goes to committee for discussion is really where we're at. He's going to go to those offices, he's going to make those phone calls and have those conversations well before the bill even makes it to committee. And then if it makes it to committee, the conversations with Will and the various folks on those committees are kind of already sealed. It says, look, this isn't something that's good for 911. We're not interested in it. And it's not going to go much further unless, and if we have a bill sponsor who's adamant about making sure that it does go the way it is, maybe there's an opportunity to work with them and rephrase or reword the wording of the bill. And that's what Will's doing really every day, each and every day.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Not saying there won't be an opportunity for us at some point to reach out to our representatives, and we did that some last year in spring for sure.
Well, I mean, I know a lobbyist can go so far to a point where then we as citizens and representatives of our board need to reach out. So again, y'all may be more used to doing this. Definitely, this is my first venture into the swamp. quote unquote. Just want to make sure we're doing the right things for our citizenry that we represent.
Yep. Right now, I think we're in line with Tina. Honestly, Russ, is that?
Yeah, I mean, and I was just going to say, bear in mind that the what's in red to the right there was the TINA Legislative Committee's. Basically, that's a vote to take to the TINA board. Obviously, Davidson County ECD can have its own decision, doesn't have to align with the TINA decision, or certainly through Will, as any of these bills more specifically affect Davidson County, sort of get a little more hands-on role through Will and what is good for Davidson County. Again, I think just basically as the caption was written, as Tina was just saying, oppose as written, and that was a unanimous decision.
Right.
As far as I know, Davidson County would be in line with that, based on exactly what Stephen was telling us just then.
My comments.
But again, I mean, we as a board can agree to approve or support or a bill just because Tina has a different decision or opinion on it.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
I guess, and somebody else, Mr. Donani, for you to come to us and say, okay, he's done, now we need to, write the resolution, and we like our phone calls or whatever. Is that my correct thinking on that, or my outline?
Yes, that's my understanding, is the moment that Will says, hey, I've done everything I can, and really to get the message, they're not listening to me alone. A resolution or action or contact with the local Davidson County representatives who serve on this or that committee is really what would make this this message be heard, is really where that would happen. Okay.
All right. I just want to make sure, Madam Chair, but thanks for putting that on my time. I just want to make sure we're exercising what we need to do as a board with our now lobbyist in place that we hadn't really had before. So
very good.
Thank you.
Anything else, Steve?
Yeah, just a few on the list of bills, and because there are about 4 that are of concern. The next one's not really one. It's a housekeeping bill on the sunset. Every so often, the Peterson Image Communications Board comes around for another round of consideration to be allowed to function for another year. That's coming up on Monday at 2:00. So Phil, I've got Paul standing by to hit that 3:00 meeting in my absence, because as I understand it now, I need to be at the Capitol at 2:00 for that meeting. But if it wraps up quickly, then I'll jump on the call.
Be careful. Sunset bills can be amended.
They absolutely can, which is
anything.
Yeah.
Yep, which is where I got the call from Curtis and said, "Will you please be there?" I said, "Oh, me and Phil Noel both. We'll be there."
So are we hearing rumblings that somebody might try to undercut and to do away with the board? Or?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. There's a group of people that want the board to be primarily made up of either local government elected officials or phone carrier representatives.
Gotcha.
The 911 districts and those of us in the PSAP should not be on the board. So yeah, there's a group out there that's trying to get that started. I don't know if they'll have any success with it, but
So again, my ignorance in just the legislative process. So, and Susan, you might be able to address this, having worked there. The sunset bill that's coming up, I mean, it's normally formality. It says housekeeping bill, but if so somebody give me a scenario, worst case scenario. Anybody can address.
They could amend it. They have some discretion on how many years they continue it. I don't know what the max is now. I mean, they're less than the max. I think it's 6 years.
Well, okay, let's say they did that.
Some amendments, or last time they took them over the coals.
Yeah, a few years ago they did. It wound up with Yeah, when that happened last time, Lynn Castell left the position and the board was restructured, and it was a variety of lots of drama came with it. So it's always possible to happen again.
Yeah. So if that worst case scenario, I mean, when this meeting, you said Monday, Director, that you got to go.
Yep, Monday at 2. It looks like it's going to government operations.
So let's say worst case scenario, Susan, that comes up and they say, okay, we need to do in, 6 months, this board needs to be dissolved, or it needs to be, changed to only be local government representatives and or telco representatives. What's the process before it
Well,
actually becomes
it still
law?
has to go through the whole legislature and be approved by the House and the Senate and go through
There'll be a committee.
it'll go to standing committees and such like that
Okay.
at that point.
Okay. That's just my ignorance
They
on.
can't change it in one meeting.
Okay. Maybe I wish need to have a sidebar and give me a 101 lesson on or Russell legislative process. So.
Now the bill becomes a law.
Yeah. I thought it was on Sesame Street or something one time.
Yeah. What's that one?
It was.
I don't think there'll be anything. I'm not anticipating anything, David. How about that? There's a handful of folks, but it really looks very very targeted right now. Really out of Lawrence County, that their goal is to stop.
And that's my
paying
concern.
into. Yeah, that's so. I guess my point is from right now, especially after the most recent Emergency Communications Board meeting, it looks very obvious that it's a small group of people with an axe to grind, trying to figure out a way to keep city monies in city coffers and have the entire cost of 911 operations borne on the 911 surcharge. So I don't know that this is a fight we're going to have to fight. I think that it's got the attention of AT&T and other large group of large lobbyists to address directly and say, hey, we don't want the entire cost of 911 operations to sit solely on that surcharge.
I get that, but I mean, just seeing the mood of not only our state and the country, I mean, it's a small group of people that will fester things up and start getting more people on their bandwagon when the bandwagon doesn't understand what song is being played. So,
amen.
So I just want to make sure. Yeah, I want to make sure, as being one of the largest communication districts in the state, that we appropriately carry our weight in the right direction for Davidson County, Nashville, and then the state in general. So.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for my ranting and raving.
That's the intent for sure.
I'm going snow crazy. Okay.
I'm going to skip down here to some of the ones that specifically Will called out and said, "Hey, we got to be have an eye on these." Let's see. Scrolling through this. That's not it yet. There we go. This House bill down here, the Russell Bell bill, 694, 612. That's the same one. Let me scroll. Let me go further. There we go. There we go. Brick and Garden Hire. So this one here is definitely one that we're looking for. House Bill 872 and Senate Bill 996 is specific to trying to make 911 dispatchers and those who perform the dispatching either direct employees or contract workers of the districts rather than employees of the city. This bill is really unique, and it does exempt by population the 4 largest counties. Davidson, Knox, Hamilton, and Shelby are exempted from this legislation, but everybody else would be included, and they'd be required the district would be required to take on the employees of the Emergency Communications Center as dispatchers as either direct employees or contracted workers. Obviously, the concern there is the feeling was that the 4 largest counties were exempted, so that there wouldn't be pushback from those 4 large counties when the bill went through the process. The concern would be, at what point down the way, if this did pass, do we say, we've got 95 counties all functioning the same, or 91 counties all functioning the same way, the other 4 should too, and we get into a spot that because everybody else is, 3 years from now, we're brought into a conversation to say Davidson County should function the same way. that the employees are
Yeah.
employees of the district instead of employees of the city.
Yeah, I forget the old saying, you give something an inch and they take a mile, or I forget what that is.
Exactly.
Exactly. So there's concern there, and is actively being worked. What's very convenient there is the sponsor of that bill is the same sponsor, is the same connection to that Lawrence County concern. So there seems to be not a lot of support right now for
Which one is
joining
that?
that
Is that
conversation.
Bricken or Garden Hire?
It's Bricken.
The Garden Hire, is he Chattanooga?
He is.
Why
And as
is
I
he
understand
concerned?
it, he came off of one of the bills, and I think it may be the it is this other bill. So
Why would he be sponsoring this? Was he just trying to protect Chattanooga?
Garden Hire, there's a contentious relationship there with 911 and Senator Garden Hire in the past few years. He was very on the forefront a few years back of getting the rate increase, the rate changed.
Right.
And along that way, since then, somebody came along and told him that 911 is flush with cash and there's no need to have a rate change. And he was, hoodwinked by the districts to push this effort. So he's now kind of tipped to the other side and is looking for opportunities to put a lot of the bulk of operating the 911 centers on that surcharge to make up for his efforts to increase the rate. Again, it's not so cut and dry, right? I think Davidson County can make a very good argument for our ECD that yes, we're in a good financial position, but are we in a good enough financial position to assume the operating costs of the department? No, and that's not the recommendation. So we're not be able to have those two conversations right now with Senator Gardenhire to say the rate increase was necessary in some places to help cover just the basic costs of technology and whatnot, but it's not enough of a rate increase to just assume the entire operational cost of both the technology and the furniture and the consoles and all the people.
Right. Okay. Well, thanks for the insights.
No problem. The next bill, which is House Bill 964, Senate Bill 1327, is just a direct response to that Tennessee Emergency Communications Board meeting that happened in early February, really just stating that any local district or any local municipality, any local government that opted to reduce funding to a district would also have to, by the same amount, their funding from the surcharge rate reduced to the districts. That's something that has been pushed throughout time with the State Emergency Communications Board, but nobody really come so far as to say they're going to do it. It happened last year, again, specifically in Lawrence County. The city of Lawrenceburg intended to reduce their contribution to the county by $200,000. The State Emergency Communications Board responded in kind and said, well, if you do this, we will also reduce your surcharge rate by $200,000. And that's where just wanted to make really crystal clear as people are putting together their budgets this year. If you're looking for ways to find money to save or find areas to save money in your budget, don't start with reducing your contribution to your local district because it won't work well. The state board will respond in kind and also reduce the amount of money that is returned to the local district. So that was passed, and I think it's 5-3 or 6-3 by the board at that meeting. The resolution that just said we will reduce that rate. Obviously, there's times for exceptions or consideration, but by and large, our default position will be to reduce the contribution to the district if locals also reduce contribution to the district. So this bill came as a result of that. Basically, it would remove the prohibition of the board of directors to reduce the base funding for ECDs if the local government also reduced. So basically, this would undo that board action is what that bill is sitting there to do. Has a lot of attention. I don't think there's anything necessary for us to do there. Again, it got a lot of attention from the carriers almost as soon as it was filed because they see that there's not a great value in trying to push the entire cost of running the 911 center on the surcharge rate. There's a lot of vendors that would then we wouldn't be able to buy anything, right? In short, the district would have a tough time considering what CAD we're going to pursue or what CPE solution we're going to pursue next if we're trying to accommodate the $15 million salary cost of the department.
Mhm. Yeah. In the history of it, from my experience, it was a lot earlier on. A lot of the smaller counties and cities started, quit paying the employee part and had the others take it over, and that's how we end up with this big discrepancy where some of them can't, in my opinion, can't fund themselves.
Right.
We've been able to. So.
Right. So on a piggyback on that is Senator Hensley's bill here that actually looks like a solution, something that's been kind of kicked around and in part actually kind of came out of Kristen Wilson's experience from the mayor's office when she was in Atlanta. This one would allow local governments the ability to impose a public safety surcharge at the local level that would ensure that they could properly fundraise for public safety on either a utility bill, whether that was electric bill or a water bill or whatever that looked like. Basically impose a surcharge that says this surcharge is specific to the purpose of providing public safety response. It could be fire, police, 911, EMS. Basically, if you have a property that where water is running or electricity is running, then you have the potential for an emergency to occur there, and this surcharge would cover the local government costs associated with providing public safety to that location. This gives local government an opportunity to find the money that they don't have, or identify the money, kind of secure the money that they don't have to meet their obligations for public safety response, and counters the argument that it has to be all entirely on the 911 surcharge. And I think that my discussion here, if I were having this locally, would be 311 is very helpful for us to allow our folks to focus on answering 911 calls, but that shouldn't be paid for with 911 dollars. 8600 is a great resource that is offered to Davidson County residents, but it shouldn't be paid for necessarily with 911 funds to answer those 8600 calls. Dispatching police, fire, and EMS, that's happened for 70 or 80 years, and the 911 surcharge came along in the early 80s. So that's the dispatching of those resources shouldn't necessarily be placed on the 911. The people who are dispatching those resources shouldn't be placed on that 911 surcharge. So this just would give another avenue for local governments to raise that funding.
I just looked it up. It doesn't have a House bill, and I think today's the bill filing deadline in the House.
Oh, okay.
So if they don't get a House bill, then it's dead.
I will follow up with Will and see where we are on that. It came in at the 11th of the 11th hours on bill filing day. It showed up.
But the Senate has a different bill filing date than the House, I believe.
I'll see if he's found a House sponsor for that one yet, if there's an update on this.
Great, thank you.
That's the final, and this isn't on this, and I'm sorry, Russ, I should have called you before, but in the same, let me stop sharing. In the same light of legislation, one of the housekeeping requests that was brought to me to come before this district board, one of the hats that I wear is on the State Emergency Communications Board. Obviously, there's a climate of folks who are interested in breaking up the board and having it managed again, either by local government or by carriers. And there is a provision inside of the role to serve as a member of the Emergency Communications Board at the state level that says I'm either a director of a district or a board member of a district. When I was appointed to the board in 2017, is that right? 2018, by the governor, I was functioning in the same role that I am now with you. I was employed by the government and was advisory to the board. I was not an employee of the board. Wasn't an issue then, but it's possible now that somebody, if they really got digging, and nobody's looking, but if somebody got digging into the weeds, they could say, oh, that guy's not even eligible, right? We gotta boot him off. He's not an employee of the district. He's not a board member. He's got to go. So the request is some sort of language from this body that would identify the position, the role of director from the DEC as the director to the board, not the chairman, not the executive director or whatnot, but something that would attach me as the director of emergency communications of the board, or this position in that role. But it would require a resolution of some sort, just as a safeguard, that when I'm due up for a reappointment coming here in the end of June, that there's not some loophole that says, oh, he's not even eligible, kick him out.
So
I've talked about this some. Go ahead, Dave. I'm sorry.
yeah, so I'm a little confused. So you are employed by Metro Nashville,
By Metro, yes.
but you're over the emergency communications
Department.
department.
Yep.
But that doesn't make you eligible to serve on the state board.
Not currently. I have to be a district board or district director, kind of like Steve Smith, or somebody that actually literally works for the district, or a board member of the district.
So with Director Smith, his salary comes out of 911 surcharge?
Correct.
Okay. So council, I'm willing to make that motion. When do you need this, Director?
Sooner than later is good. It's not an immediate rush, but I wanted to bring it up on this board meeting so it didn't linger too much longer.
Yeah, Steve and I have had this conversation, and my thought is obviously by virtue of the interlocal agreement. I mean, and Mark, help me out here if you can recall. Would we have to go through and basically specify through the interlocal agreement that Steve is that we could create the resolution that by virtue of his employee as a Metro employee, head of the emergency communications, he is therefore the director of ECD Nashville, of our district. He is our director. Will we have to do that through an interlocal agreement?
It makes sense that might be the place. I think there's a clause in the agreement right now that states that, the Metro will staff the 911 department, but I think we need some language in there to designate him that he is also, director for the district.
That they staff, and that goes all the way down through Steve, all the way down to the dispatching, right, positions, but that the Nashville, the Davidson County employee for emergency communications is also the director.
Right, the head person of DEC also serves as the director for the ECD. Yeah, something of that nature.
So, Madam Chair, I'm willing to make a motion. I just need to know what it is.
Well, I guess my thought would be is Mark and I and Steve would kind of put our heads together and see if we need an amendment to our interlocal agreement, and or can we just do a resolution off the language in the interlocal agreement? We'll come up with that solution. And so basically for motion today is not how we do it, but that certainly we do what is necessary to get Mr. Martini to be our ECD director. Is that correct? Is that what you're asking, David?
Do we not also have to then define in our bylaws what the director's capacity is as a part of the board?
That's a Russell question or a Steve question.
Is it defined already?
Well, we are defined as having 9 members or 9 directors or whatever you want to call the board members on the board. We have 9 of us. Do we actually have the capacity to add him as a 10th?
Yeah, my recommendation would be that it would be an advisory capacity only. I'm not a member of the board. It's just an advisory capacity from the Department of Emergency Communications operations.
Yeah.
Which essentially, when he mentioned Director Smith down in Rutherford County, Steve is the director for the emergency communications district, but he's not a voting member of the board.
Okay.
So, Russell, I don't know how
I
we
think
word
that,
it.
yeah, I think the issue is not so much voting, but his source of employment and how we, through our ECD district that is created, make sure he is the designated director of operations or whatever we want to call it. He is the director who over the functioning body and the process of not a board member. Am I saying that correctly, Steve? To meet what the definition is under the
Yeah,
statute?
absolutely, absolutely. And I don't think we're doing anything that we're not doing now. I think if any of y'all were, if somebody were to say, "Hey, who's the director of the Metro Nashville ECD?" Every one of y'all would clarify. Well, they don't really have a director of the ECD, but the guy you want to talk to is over at the DEC. And the chairman is, or the chair is Cleo, right? And that's the distinction, is just putting that in writing somewhere.
Yeah. So I don't know if we have no say in who's hired or who isn't hired either, but I don't know if that's an issue with what the state law says. So. But I mean, I have no problems. The director's always been considered a director.
Yeah, so Madam Chair, David Gleason makes a motion for council along with the director and Mark Lanham to come up with appropriate bylaw amendment wording that will satisfy any possible dispute with the Tennessee Emergency Communication Board for Director Martini to serve as a board member of that body.
Okay, I have a motion, but I just have a question before we get into that. Are you saying for the bylaws or for the interlocal agreement?
Whatever necessary vehicle contractual needs to be executed.
Somehow or other, I think before we can do it, we have to understand exactly what we're amending. Whether it's, I mean, because I think we're going to set ourselves up for a problem if we aren't clear as to what we're actually amending.
Yeah, I'd recommend just a resolution and not necessarily an amendment to the existing agreement with Metro, just a resolution by the district that says the district recognizes the director of the Metro Department of Emergency Communications as the director in an advisory capacity to the Emergency Communications District Board.
The board, yeah.
And just going back to what I was saying, I think we would just in that resolution reference the interlocal agreement. I don't think we have to amend it. It's just that's how we get to Steve to bring him back in as our directors through the interlocal agreement.
Okay, with upon that recommendation, Madam Chair, amend my motion as so said by Director Martini and Council.
Yeah. Resolution.
For a resolution, yes, ma'am.
I second that.
Okay, I have a motion from David and Susan. Did you second that?
Yes.
Thank you. So I have a motion and a second. Do we have other discussion or questions? Hearing none, I'll do a roll call. I'll start with Susan.
Yes.
Lorinda?
Aye.
That was a yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Rudy?
Yes.
William?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Mr. Torino?
Yes.
Okay, that's everybody. Thank you very much. What else?
Thank you all. The only thing I have left, Chairman, is just the meetings that are coming up with the technical committees as we talk about opportunities for the budget moving forward in the year ahead. Some of the things we're looking at. We're looking forward to those meetings in March to talk about cyber and performance operation solutions and some of the other things that we're looking at. We're looking forward to those meetings in March and the budget meeting upcoming.
Steve, can you give us just a quick update of where we stand with cybersecurity? Are you just still in the research phase, or?
Tim, we have. I'm going to defer to Tim on where we are with securing all the quotes from all the various folks.
Okay, so a quick update is I have gotten quotes back from 3 vendors. However, I'm reaching back out to one of the vendors to actually provide a little bit more scope of work because they only provided the hardware, but no kind of scope of work of what's going to be going on within the product. So I need more detailed information just so we can do a better comparison on the type of services that's being provided to us. So once I get that, I will say I'm going to include our Chief Information Security Officer, John Griffey with the City IT, to do an evaluation of these, to look at the services being offered, since that's what he specializes in. I put some trust into John, and I feel like that he'll do us good as far as reviewing the quotes and the scope of work that's being provided to us. So I do have, some budget numbers, but again, it's about the services being provided, make sure we're getting the best services for the dollar that we're spending.
So this is David. My constant pounding of the drum on cybersecurity monitoring, not because I work for a cybersecurity company, but just knowing the threats that are out there in everyday living, whether it's a public safety, business, individual. I mean, I encourage everybody, if you're not already, check your bank account every day. Cyber hacking is a way of life for a lot of people in a lot of countries that we can't extradite. Tim Watkins, is it feasible by a board meeting in March that you would have a comparison and y'all would have a recommendation for the board with my extension? Because I think one of the vendors is using our solution, but we need to move quicker than later. I don't want to wait till July 1st.
Right. Yeah, absolutely, Dave. I think this can get wrapped up before we meet in March. So I don't think that'd be an issue at all.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate your hard work on it. I know I've been a thorn in your side, but
no thorns here, Dave. It's just trying to get something in place to protect the systems.
How's your arm doing? Your shoulder? I'm sorry, I'm getting off topic, but
all good.
Good. Glad to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Sharon.
Anything else?
I have a question.
Yes. Go ahead.
Last month, Steve, you were talking about, working with some people on some backup communication plans and such like that after the bombing and things didn't work. And so I was just going to say, see if there's any update on that, or is that what we're going to talk about in the technology committee? And any other things since the bombing, any response from AT&T and, something from the state board dealing with all that?
Yeah, so thanks for bringing up those two topics. It's why I drink, Susan, so thanks. I'm going to see if we can get through that problem.
That's a country song, isn't it?
To give you an update for what we're doing internally, weather interrupted our meeting that we were planning to have this week on site in person with Metro ITS to really whiteboard the solution that we're trying to identify between Williamson County, Rutherford County, and ourselves to create a redundant fiber ring for communications infrastructure to share phone capacity, to share internet, to share perhaps 911 trunks if that's possible. So we're planning on having that meeting now next Thursday in person for a couple of hours. Once we've got that in place, we actually that afternoon, so Thursday morning, the 25th or 26th, whatever that is, we got a meeting with Metro ITS. Then that afternoon, I have another meeting with Rutherford County and Mission Critical Partners to discuss the solution that we're exploring there to connect our networks together between Rutherford County and Davidson County to allow to share exactly that phone capacity, internet capacity, and where that matters is the central offices. Some of the central offices that serve the counties around us were up and able to receive 10-digit dialing. If you just call a 10-digit number, that was functional. 911 went down in those counties, but the 10-digit dialing stayed up. We were reversed. We kept 911 up, but we lost our 10-digit dialing. So if we would have had the ability to share a 10-digit number that rang into a Brentwood central office and then had the ability to receive that call across, a fiber connection between the two counties, we could have posted a 10-digit number and received 10-digit calling through that weekend because of that partnership. It was very close, but it wasn't in place. So and Rutherford County had the same interest. So that's the plan. We're working now to identify what that looks like. and then we'll be able to attach costs, and then we'll be able to come to the technology committee and say, this is what we're looking to do, and the associated costs and what we're requesting from the board for participation there. So that's
something that's crossed my mind too is, are there legal ramifications of that? You know, if somebody messes up in one of the other counties, or something happens between there, does that make us liable?
I don't think so, but I would look to the Metro Radio Authority that already has a similar solution in place with Williamson County sharing the radio system. So I'd see what they've got in place, that if one of those pieces fails, right, I think there's some precedents there that we can lean on. As far as AT&T and the communication with the board, one letter was sent, and kind of what we expected, a letter sent from Joelle Phillips, who's in the marketing side of AT&T, stating that they obviously regret what happened and wish it hadn't happened, and we're very proud of their response and by their technicians that day, and are going to work to identify solutions moving forward to improve communications. At the actual board meeting, the state board meeting, the board chair appointed me, I guess because it happened in our backyard, as the vice chair of the state board to represent 911 on the whole in conversations with AT&T to discuss the redundancy that wasn't there, that we thought was there, that was not there, right? We routed over to Knoxville's access tandem like we expected to that morning, but we didn't realize, so many of us didn't realize, that 911 centers that weren't primarily served by Knoxville's tandems were not connected to Knoxville's tandem. It still required routing those 911 calls back through that Second Avenue facility. And when that facility failed, that's where we lost the ability to get that 911 call back from Knoxville. So we want to have a redundancy conversation with AT&T. AT&T understandably isn't willing to have that conversation out in public about how they're going to, tweak their network, and specifically to do redundancy, because I think that's part of what got us in this mess in the first place. This guy that drove his truck down there by that building knew too much about that building. He knew that hitting it would cause a problem, and it did. So I have not heard yet from, I talked to Curtis last week, and I've not heard from Curtis yet. And now I have two things I'm going to do: call Will, and then I'm going to call Curtis after this meeting to figure out when AT&T is getting that meeting together. Because I, like you, I'm not willing to wait another 30 days and have AT&T wrote a letter and they said, go back to your corner and we'll work it out on our own. I think we need to get clear direction on what is being done to put in place a redundancy solution that will not cause this to happen again. That's where it's at, is they've identified a representative and meetings to follow.
Okay, great.
Director, while you're on the AT&T, I thought of the EZNet replacement
Sure.
RFP. Any status on that from the state board and state procurement?
As I understand it, it's still sitting with procurement.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
For anybody that wants to read, there's also a security risk analysis out by Blue Glacier Security and Intelligence that's interesting reading. I'm not all the way through it, but it's out there to get if anybody's interested in reading that. So just to let you know. Anything else?
Yes, I'd like to say something to Mr. Martini, Dr. Martini, Reverend Martini. What are you calling yourself these days?
Just Mr. Definitely not Doctor. Just Mr.
Yeah, because you're wearing a lot of hats.
Doctor 911.
Yeah, sir. I just want to thank you for putting the activations, the numbers that show the number of hours that the team members have worked on various projects. Because is this for January and December or just for January?
That is just January. Those are just 1 month.
And I see there must be overtime hours or what have you, and just by say 21 members or what have you, but they've been busy and still keeping us very close to the percentage of the standards. So kudos to them. And they are doing a very good job. So these numbers make a difference when they're on the report, so we can still look back and see. So they had recovery efforts in there, the over 200 or so hours that they did. And I know this also includes being prepared for the, during the inauguration. Just whatever may have happened, if anything were to happen, they were prepared. So they were already going above and beyond and beyond. So thank you for putting those numbers here. I don't know what TERT is, unless I'm just forgetting, but,
So first is what we do here internally. That's our response is exactly what you're talking about, to the downtown bombing, to that's first. TERT is really performing that same function, only in somebody else's dispatch center. We deployed a few people down in October to the Mobile Gulf Shores area to work in their dispatch centers when their dispatchers really just got to the point where they couldn't work anymore following the hurricane. So that's TERT, is us going to another person's dispatch center.
Right, that's right.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, that came back when you said that because it came up during the flood and during any disaster. Okay,
I heard it out in North Carolina, I think.
Yeah, good deal. But I just want to say thank you for adding that to the report, and so that makes a difference. So thank you so much, and good job, and tell them kudos, and thank you so much. We got good dispatchers that this tails go above and beyond. So thank you.
Completely agree. I'm looking forward to us getting in a firmer process where we can go around and help our neighboring counties do the same and build up that same kind of team in the Middle Tennessee area. And I think we've got a great group of folks that know exactly how to do that well. And I'll pass your kind comments along. I thank you.
Yeah, I think so. They are being leaders, and they are exemplifying true leaders and team players. Even when they go outside our county or wherever, they're always ready. Always ready. Now let Fox 17 and the news do a report on that. But we know what's happening behind the scenes. So thank you so much for this, for documenting our track record. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll share that. Thank you.
Second those comments, and they're true representatives of the volunteer state.
Very good. Anything else?
Yes, this is Mark. I just wanted to mention to Susan and David that if they haven't already been contacted by somebody from the mayor's office regarding the possibility to be reappointed for another 4-year term, they
Is that already up again?
Yeah, your term
Time flies when
expired,
you're having fun. Yeah.
February 14th. So the mayor's office had been in contact with me, and they said they would get in touch with you to see if you were up to another 4-year term.
Who would that be coming
That'd be
from?
Mary Falls. She's the one I've been speaking with. So
Okay, I hadn't looked specifically on my personal email. Which email address for me? Susan, I don't know. You may have gotten one already, but
Nope. I didn't realize I was up until you mentioned Charlene and looked it up.
I just,
The one that has David Gleason 2009 email.
Well, I think
at least on my list.
The mayor's office will have whatever we have out there on the I think the board member list. I'll find out and I'll let you know, David.
okay. Well, Susan hadn't gotten anything. I'll just double check my.
Yeah, if she hadn't gotten anything, you probably haven't either. But I told her I would love to see you all stay on. So I hope that you will.
I'm willing to. Yeah, I'm willing to.
Susan, you're going to commit. You're going to commit in front of everybody too, or?
I just hadn't even thought about it. And do you still want me on there? And I've been 24 years, I believe.
Been on a long time.
Hey, well,
I've
double
been
your
here less than a
retirement.
year, so I'd be glad for you to stay, Miss Matson. I've been here less than a year, and I keep hearing great things about your involvement. So it'd be great if you give a few more.
Scattered nowadays.
I make a motion to increase double Susan's retirement if she stays on the board.
You mean my Metro retirement?
No, your board retirement.
0 times 0 is 0. Then surely we can double that, right? All right.
Very good. Anything else we need to discuss? Our next meeting, I do believe, is March the 18th.
Correct, yes.
Unless things change, I guess we'll be doing a virtual meeting again, but we'll see. Maybe everybody gets their shots in that before long.
Maybe I'll have my video camera for my.
We don't even have time to get a shot by then. Both.
Motion to
Somebody-
adjourn, Madam
I
Chair.
have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have any opposed? Let the records reflect that all board members voted yes. And we stand adjourned until March the 18th.
Everybody stay warm and safe.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you.
stay
Y'all,
warm.
great work.
Bye.
See y'all.
All right, thank you.